How do you get through your student midwifery training? From personal experience, third year is where I almost chucked in the bag and almost entirely quit. I'm going to use a bit of personal reflection. I'm going to have to change a few things here just to keep it anonymous, but I came out of a delivery suite shift where another midwife, someone who I wasn't with, not at all as a student, but I'd overheard a big conversation in the middle of a handover area where this midwife was talking very derogatively about an individual going through probably one of their worst days in their life. And I remember turning up on my mum's doorstep and going, I don't want to be part of the system. I don't want to turn out like that midwife did. And I think I'm ready to quit. And because I was third year student, I was also having the stress of things like dissertation, had my 40 babies that you have to catch as a midwife. Also at that same time, I'd had a shift with lots of emergencies, like back to back, going to theatre one after the other. Lots of high risk women who had lots of things going on medically, even before they'd come into pregnancy, that meant that they were going through a much more challenging labour and birth as well because of their background medical history. And I remember being at my mum's house and thinking, I cannot do this and I cannot be part of that whatsoever. And third year is so difficult because you have got so much academically pressure put on you, but you're also expected to step up as a third year student as well and make that step and that transition ready for qualifying as a registered midwife. Add into the sacrifices that you make as a student midwife and the financial sacrifices you have to make. You know, it's a 45-week-a-year course. It's not like any other university degree that you'll ever get or university course. Add in any sort of other family commitments that you may or may not have, the family pressures, the things that happen outside of being a student midwife, and it is so blimmin' hard. And I sat down with a fantastic midwife who I have the most amount of respect for. She was one of my mentors in a previous year as a student midwife. Almost didn't qualify as well and decided they weren't going to continue with it. They saw that step up and that responsibility and that pressure that goes on and the reality of maternity services by that point. They almost didn't get a job and didn't apply for jobs, and then she did go for one. She'd been like a midwife for like 12 or 13 years by the time she'd become my mentor, and she said, I do remember what it was like, and for me qualifying, going part-time was the best thing for my mental health, whilst also then being able to become a midwife and working in the system. And she said, all I did is I just went for an 18-hour contract, and that's what I went for, and that was a way to protect my mental health, give me what I wanted for so long is to become a midwife, but also have that respite needed to be able to pause, refresh in between each shift as well, where it's not so relentless if you are full-time, for example. And I'd really recommend speaking to your university to see what mental health support they offer. Lots of universities and trusts as well, NHS trusts, offer things like staff support services for talking therapies, for talking support. GPs are also really good as well to be able to go and talk to and speak openly about mental health as well. Seeking that support is so important. I'd like to say that the crying stops, but here 13 years qualified, still going. I still have shifts where I come home and I cry the whole route home, and that music on my way home is a way for me to be able to try and release and let go before I walk through the door. It's not always possible, but I do my best for that. And I think because the system is under so much pressure right now and you're expected to do so much, I think it's really hard to switch off. If you do need to step away and you do need to take that time off, please do. Your mental health is far more important than any other job going. And if you do qualify, there are lots of different routes that you can take at the end of training, whether you go in and start in maternity services and maybe think about part-time, for example, or alternatively just give it a go when you're qualified, because sometimes being qualified can make a difference because you're able to practice the way that you want to practice and not the way that your mentors want you to practice. Obviously working within the constraints of your guidelines, and also having those conversations with women and people and the time constraints that you have. But you get to practice the way that you intended to practice, which can be really positive, empowering and reassuring. And sometimes that, when you are qualified, makes a big difference. But please seek support. You are not alone in this. Please qualify, get your degree at the very least. What you do next is entirely up to you. And I've certainly known of people who have taken sort of a gap year, gone travelling, done a few other things, and then come back into midwifery, because once you are qualified and registered, you have got 3 years to be able to get your revalidation hours. So you have got some time. And as a newly qualified midwife, any trust that you would go for would have a preceptorship intake as well. So that's where you've got to do so many different things, and you'd be supported whether you've taken any break or not. And finally, you never know what might happen a year from now. Maybe, just maybe, the maternity review will be what we need. Maybe there will be safe staffing levels, and maybe women and people will get the care that they need, because there'll be an increased amount of newly qualified midwives and midwives getting jobs, and maybe there'll be an increased amount within maternity units to provide the care that's needed, and maybe we'll have more happy midwives who have been able to give the time to women and people that they've needed, and we'll have better morale as well. I have to have hope, because that's what keeps me going.